The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark.
Glory to you, Lord.
On the first day of unleavened bread, when the Passover lamb was sacrificed, his disciples said to Jesus, "Where do you want us to go and make preparations for you to eat the Passover?" So he sent two of his disciples, saying to them, "Go into the city and you will meet a man carrying a pitcher of water. Follow him and say to the owner of the house which he enters, 'The master says, where is my dining room in which I can eat the Passover with my disciples?' He will show you a large upper room furnished with couches, all prepared. Make the preparations for us there." The disciples set out and went to the city and found everything as he told them and prepared the Passover. As they were eating, he took some bread, and when he said the blessing, he broke it and gave it to them. "Take it," he said, "this is my body." Then he took a cup, and when he'd returned thanks, he gave it to them and drank from it, and he said to them, "This is my blood, the blood of the covenant, which is to be poured out for many. I tell you solemnly, I shall not drink any more wine until the day I drink the new wine in the kingdom of God." After the psalms had been sung, they left for the Mount of Olives. The Gospel of the Lord.
One of the main things that the Lord seems to be showing me in my prayer at the moment is a new appreciation of the goodness of the world. The image is very much, the image of a child in his father's house, where the father is taking care of everything and making sure the child is provided for and looked after and things are good. And I seem to be seeing that more and more, especially this year. I've been finding that's been happening in my prayer, in my relationship with God. One of the main ways that I find that expressed in my life is I feel very drawn to just stop and be still. I live over here at the presbytery, and I just walk out the door and I stand amongst the trees and I just look at the beauty and feel the sunshine and think, this is really nice, just for a little while, as a way of saying, and I felt attracted to doing that, and I've wanted to do that, and I felt like that's been ministering to my spirit. But as I've been reflecting, like, Lord, what's going on here? Why is this so attractive to me? Why do I want to do this? I've been starting to understand that what's happening there is I'm saying the world is already good because God makes it good, because God is our Father taking care of the world and us as his children. And it's not all about me constantly labouring to make my world good. What I'm also realising is the contrary side of it that's really actually rather miserable, that all of my life I've seen the world as largely bad. And so what is my life like? What is my life about? Well, it's all about this ceaseless labour to try to fix the world, or to try to fix my experience of the world, to, find the good bits in the world and keep the bad bits away. And it's exhausting. And it's miserable because it's futile. It just doesn't work. The bad bits keep on coming, don't they? Never ending. And the thing is, I know it's futile, but I keep doing it because it's my only option. What else can we do, huh? The world's messed up, so we've just got to, paddle furiously to try to stay away from the shark. What other choice do we have? Well, I believe that in my experience of God at the moment, he's revealing to me what is actually the other choice that Jesus offers us, that we are children of a good Father who has made the world good, who cares for us, who protects us and provides for us. Now, why am I saying that today? Well, I'm saying that because I'm passionate about it and I want to tell people, but also because the Eucharist says that. The Eucharist, there's so many angles we could take on the Eucharist, so many themes, so many mysteries in it that we could bring out and focus on. But one of them, one of the key ones, is what is this? This is the Father gathering his children into his house and feeding us with his banquet. It's an image of what I was just saying, the goodness of the world where God feeds us and provides for his children. What's meant to happen here, folks, among other things, is we're meant to see here what the world is like, what the world out there is like. We're meant to see here that we are fed, we are drawn as his children and fed from his goodness so that, like, it's not supposed to be that this is God's house where he feeds us. It is that, but it's meant to be saying the whole darn thing is God's house, where we go out there and we're fed by the air we breathe, by the light that shines upon us, by the sunshine on our backs, by the beauty that's around us, by the love of our brothers and sisters, that all of that feeds us, and especially by the food. It grows on trees, for goodness sake. How good is that? Sometimes I look at fruit trees and these lollies grow on trees. Who came up with that idea? You know, but this is meant to be saying that to us. This is meant to be a revelation of the nature of the world, God's house, God's family, God feeding us, God providing for us. It's also meant to be speaking to us of heaven, where not only are we fed by the fruit of the earth, you know, the stuff that just pops up out of the ground, but we're fed from his very flesh. Very much like a baby being fed at his mother's breast, or better still, in his mother's womb, on her very flesh. That forever in heaven we will be in God's good kingdom and our food will be his love. That will be our glory forever. And again, this is meant to be pointing to that and saying that that's already the nature of the world, that God has made the kingdom of heaven be present here on us, here for us on earth. That's what it's like. All right, that's great, isn't it? But we don't really believe it. I mean, we believe it in principle. There aren't too many people who are sitting there thinking, nah, that's not right, that's not good theology. You all think that's good theology. But our experience is we go out there and there's so much badness that it's hard to see the goodness, right? It's not a bad summary, huh? So much badness that it's hard to see the goodness. And in fact, we can kind of get drawn into this view of the world where the goodness is taken for granted. I got to bust my ass to make sure I'm fixing the badness. That's my job. And I don't pay any attention to the goodness. Well, the Eucharist is also speaking to that, because the Eucharist is not only food, providence, it's not only that, it's medicine. Because the Eucharist is the memorial of the death and resurrection of Christ. The body broken, the blood poured out, instituted by the Lord the night before he died, said, do this as a memorial of me, a memorial of my passion. So the Eucharist is not just food, but it's the cross. And the cross is the remedy, the cross is the medicine. The cross is what says to us that all the evil you encounter out there and in here, all the evil you encounter is this evil. And you see what the Father did with this evil. Do you see what the Father did with this evil? He took it And he turned it into something so glorious that we're better off because of it. So this place is not God's good house, God's good kingdom, because the evil is shut out. This is profound, people. This is profoundly significant for our lives. This is not God's good kingdom, God's good household, because the evil is shut out. This is God's good kingdom because He, the Father, takes the evil and does something so miraculously fantastic and mind-boggling with it that the evil is not a problem. In fact, we're better off because of it somehow. Oh, happy fault that won for us such a Redeemer. We're better off. Now, you get the theory, right? You follow the logic. The evil that you confront out there, it doesn't make the world bad because it's that evil. And God has already shown us, the Father has already shown us, that it's done, it's dealt with. It's drawn into glory. But folks, the theory doesn't do us any good without the practice. We can't know this until you cannot know this until you have entered into your evil and found your resurrection in that place. That is the Christian story. That is Jesus' story. That is to be our story. It's no good knowing the theory that God's taken care of the evil, therefore, we are also happy that this is nice. We might just be fooling ourselves. We are fooling ourselves unless we know from our own hearts that the evil in our lives, the Father takes that and brings about the resurrection in our lives, in your life, in my life. And when we know that, not from a theological, theoretical level, because somebody said it from the pulpit, but when we know it because it's our experience, then it is possible for us to go out into the world and know from our hearts the world is good. The Father is taking care of it. The evil out there does not mean that the Father's not taking care of it. He's shown us that, and we know that because we've lived it. Now, it's perfectly possible, and I have to sort of make a kind of an act of humility before you here now, which I realise as I'm preparing this homily, that it's perfectly possible that I'm standing here proclaiming this to you with a smile on my face now because my life's pretty good. And I don't live in Gaza or Ukraine or a North Korean labour camp or a, miserable relationship or a, state of terror or grief or whatever. All I can say to that, and I have to admit that. I have to accept that maybe it's just easy for me to stand here and say this today because my life's pretty good at the moment. But all I can say is, if some evil befalls me tomorrow and my life becomes miserable again, well, I will just draw into this mystery. I'll look into the evil. I'll explore that. I'll seek God in it. I'll ask the Lord to show me where's the resurrection that you have for me in this. What resurrection do you want to reveal in my life, in this pain, in this sorrow, in this suffering? It's the only way, folks. And all I can do is trust that the Lord will show me the resurrection again, the life, the transformation that He does bring through the evil in the world that he does. You know, I found myself hesitating as I went to say it, and I thought, no. We don't hesitate. It's true. It's proclaimed. Whatever the evil that we're confronting, it's that evil, and that's his plan for it. And when we know it, then we can look out at the world and say the world is good and the Father is in charge. It's all his goodness. Lastly, the Eucharist proclaims this message of the goodness of God and the goodness of our Father because it is thanksgiving. Eucharist means thanksgiving, right? You know that. The word literally means thanksgiving. Now, what we're doing here, actually, you probably hadn't noticed. Well, I hadn't really noticed until I reflected on it preparing this homily. What we're doing is actually what I was saying at the start of the homily. We're stopping at this moment. We are not labouring to make the world better, are we? We've taken a moment in our time to stop trying to fix the world and just receive what is being given to us. That's what this is. We've come here to receive God's goodness. It's an act of thanksgiving. It's an act of stopping our ceaseless effort to try to make our worlds good. Not that we shouldn't be trying to make our world better, but if we never stop doing that, we miss the fact that it's already good. And so we're called to thanksgiving. We're taught, we're commanded by God to come here and give thanks so that we're not waiting for God to convince us that the world is good. He says, don't wait for me to convince you. Start to act as if it's good. That's what thanksgiving is. That's why we're called to praise people. That's why we're people of praise in this community. Because God says, don't wait to be convinced of the goodness of your salvation. Don't wait for it to strike you and change your heart so that you want to pour out praise. Start to act as if you're saved. And when we do act as if we're saved, thanksgiving and praise being a key expression of that, then our hearts start to catch up with our doctrine. And it's quite possible, and I think this is my story too, it's quite possible that you do already know that the world is good, that you do already know that Jesus has saved us out of what afflicts us and brought us into glory, but that our actions haven't yet caught up with our belief. We know the world is good. Part of us knows that, but we don't act like that because we're still ceaselessly trying to fix the world. You never stop for a minute. Aren't you rather busy? Are you busy? How are you? Oh, busy. Like that's a good thing. Because I never stop trying to fix the world. Well, stop it, folks. Stop it and take a moment here in Eucharist, in Thanksgiving, to say, hey, Father, I see what you've done for me. And I want part of my life at least to reflect that and to honour that and to celebrate that and hopefully in time my whole life will start to be that reality of a child living in the Father's good house.